Hey, what's up, guys? I just want to real quick say that I think the Diane Tran uh, incident where she got jailed for missing classes is actually highlighting a bigger principle, and that is that the judge is right in what he did, and the law is wrong. Um, if you haven't already heard, there's a girl named Diane Tran who her parents apparently divorced and left her and her siblings, and she would work several jobs to support them, and also went to school dual enrolled, and had honor classes, and overall was doing quite well, but she missed about 10 days of school, and because of that she was sent to the juvenile court. And what I think this highlights is how wicked and evil mandatory schooling is. And the underlying problem with mandatory schooling is that it is a type of benevolent slavery. In other words, when the government says that either you go to school or you get in trouble with the law for being a truant, that's effectively slavery. It doesn't matter that it's supposedly benevolent. If somebody says they're going to lock you in a cage if you don't do what they say, even though they think it's good for you, then that is a de facto slavery. I mean, it'd be no different if somebody said you got to eat broccoli or brush your teeth twice a day, and if you don't, after 3 days of not doing it, we're going to put you in jail. And I don't think that people really get this. There's a really big disconnect, even in law students when I was in law school, between judicial discretion and the law. And one of the biggest problems with the law as it is that it's so selectively enforced that the government can pretty much get away with passing anything as long as they don't enforce it. And one of those chief examples was when Obama signed the NDAA. He's like, oh yeah, this could potentially apply to Americans, but don't worry, I won't use it. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, if there was a law, just to be, make an extreme case, that said that, U.S. government could just sentence someone to death, without any trial, without really any process whatsoever, just the legislator could say, "Oh, you should deserve to die." But they said, "Oh, don't worry, I'm not gonna, use it. It's just our power." You'd be like, "Oh, that's absolutely insane." Well, that happens with most of the laws in the books. Most of the laws, if instead of being selectively enforced, if they were 100% enforced, I guarantee you that within a matter of days there would be either a revolution or a constitutional convention or something of that nature. Just take, for example, speeding ticket laws. If everybody who went 5 or plus over automatically got a ticket, like there was some magical way to do that, I'm pretty sure that most people who drive a car would at some point throughout their day have a ticket almost daily. And that just goes to show you that there are problems with the law. In other words, the law doesn't reflect how people operate, and that goes across a lot of different laws. And this tying all back to say that the government has been able to get control and turn us into de facto slaves subjectively, when it's convenient for them, by passing laws that, seem to have some noble intentions, but at the end of the day are just really total controls in our lives. And this is emphasized with youth by the parens patriae doctrine. If you're not familiar, basically just says the government has ultimate rights to your children. And actually, just to cite a case, there's this case from long ago, 1944, but it's still on point for today, Prince v. Massachusetts, 321 U.S. 158. And there they say the state has a wide range of power for limiting parental freedom and authority of things affecting the child's welfare, and this includes, to some extent, matters of conscience and religious conviction. In other words, the government has such a wide swath of discretion over your kids, and ultimately you, if you look at the tax code, that they really are the owners of you. They have an estate in your estate, and they have an estate in your body. It's really scary, and I think that people don't realize the judge actually did a great job. He followed the law. He applied the law even-handedly in the sense that someone before him had broken it, and so he metered out punishment. And people don't get that. They're like, oh, well, you should use discretion. Well, have you ever thought about the underlying premises of the law? I mean, that's, people don't realize that, oh, on one hand, this could be used to, punish bad kids or something like that who's, skipping class and doing bad. But don't you realize that the underlying root of all this is that you don't own yourself or your children, the government does? If you could put somebody into a cage for not obeying something like, showing up and, doing something healthy for themselves, running a mile a day, I mean, you'd be like, that's ridiculous, but that's what the government does, and a lot of people just excuse it because it's education, but it shouldn't matter. There shouldn't be anything that the government can impose a type of, you know, confining or jail type system for in a positive action. That is not the way of being free. That's the way of being a feudal slave. And so, you know, people are not going to like this, but the judge was right and the law is wrong. And people need to start thinking that way and start saying, oh my gosh, you know, how many laws on the books are that if they weren't enforced, most people would be in trouble for? I mean, you could probably think of a couple things if you think about what you do on a computer that maybe under federal law you might get in trouble, even some certain state laws, but are just not regularly enforced. So, you know, think about that. And of course, you know, this girl obviously deserves great sympathy, but she's not the only one. I mean, I've had the opportunity to practice in juvenile court, and I've seen very, very terrible things happen to youth for missing school just because they're in poverty. They're literally just broke and they can't even afford to, you know, get to school or afford their textbooks and stuff like that. And they come into court and they become wards of the court, and they're basically raised in the courts. And there's some, you know, good books on that, just, you know, to demonstrate how much power the court has. But ultimately, you need to do your research. You need to tell others whenever somebody says, oh, that judge should have done blah, blah, you need to go to their face and say, well, what about the law? You know, talk to them about the principles of it, because it's kind of scary how people don't understand the underlying premise that the government owns you through parens, patriae doctrine and other types of things like taxation and things like that. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and I'll talk to you soon.